Figured I would throw together this review of Pyrrhic Tales Prelude to Darkness because there aren't any video reviews of this game available on YouTube. I enjoyed the game quite a bit and I'd highly recommend it. However, the game tends to crash a lot. It will crash every 15 or 20 minutes. You can somewhat circumvent this by quitting to the main menu and then loading your save. So, you save every 5 or 10 minutes, quit, and then load your save from the main menu. That'll allow you to play slightly longer. I noticed in the later part of the game it didn't actually crash within 15 minutes. Typically it would crash every 20 or so minutes, so I don't know. Perhaps different areas of the game crash at different time intervals, so I don't know. It also just crashes randomly. The game is extremely unstable. That's a huge demerit. That's a huge stain upon the reputation of this game, upon its functionality. But I think the game is very well designed, especially, as a role-playing game. It's got all the systems in place. All of the side quests have various solutions. You can typically take a few different sides within every side quest. And the combat mechanics are very well designed. They're pretty in-depth. The real downside to the game, though, is that it's very brief, and the main story is extremely linear. So your character build just doesn't have enough time to be extremely relevant. And the fact that you can have 6 characters in your party means that really it doesn't matter how you build your character. There'll almost always be someone within your party who you can put points into to complete a quest in whatever manner you so choose. So your character builds aren't super relevant, which is unfortunate because, as I said, mechanically there's a great deal of depth, and they clearly put a lot of thought into designing the mechanics of this game, the combat mechanics, and the ways in which the various skills work and how they interact with the quests in the game. And as I said, the main story is extremely linear, unfortunately. But the linearity of the main quest and the unfortunate brevity of the game aside, it is very fun. It is very well designed. It's just very unstable. So if you can get over the linearity of the main story, the almost constant crashes, and the lack of time to appreciate, how your character build is unique in this game, if you can get over those 3 things, then you'll have a great deal of fun in the game. If the game were about twice as long as it currently is, I'd say it's the best role-playing game I've ever played. And if the party size were restricted a bit more, that would mean that your character builds are more relevant, and the game would be more fun because of that as well. As it stands currently, however, I would give it, if I had to give it a rating, which I don't care to do, I'd probably give it a 8 out of 10. I liked it better than the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. I don't like it quite as well as the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I liked it more than Oblivion. Liked it better than Fallout 3. I liked it better than Fallout New Vegas, matter of fact. But there's not enough content there. So, as I've talked about in previous videos, if you only have, let's say, 5 hours to play any game, I'm going to pick Pyrrhic Tales Prelude to Darkness over all of those games. But if I can only pick one game, I'm going to pick one of those other games. I'll probably pick Fallout New Vegas over any of the others because Fallout New Vegas has more content. Pyrrhic Tales Prelude to Darkness is probably, I don't know what my playtime was. It was about 30 hours roughly. Maybe 25, I don't know. It's a pretty short game, as I said, especially for how complex and well-designed the combat and just the other skill mechanics are. Put a lot of thought into this game for it to be so short, and it's really unfortunate because if it were twice as long and the game were very stable, I think it would have a beloved cult following today. And on to the totally subjective aspects of the game, I really like the art. The game really looks great, especially the UI elements. The color is great. Of course, the textures are very basic. They're very low resolution, but I still think they look okay. They don't look very good. It's very early 3D, but they look passable. Personally, I don't care much about texture quality. I don't care about, high resolution textures. I don't care about, fidelity to reality with textures. I'm more concerned about the color. And the color in this game is very nice. And the soundtrack is great. I love all the pieces of music that are in the game. There aren't very many pieces of music in the game. I think there's like 8 different songs in the game or something like that, which is also unfortunate. I wish they had more pieces of music in the game because all the pieces of music were great. The sound design is pretty good. There are some things that should have sounds that don't, like the spells. It's just ridiculous that spells don't have sounds. But the clang of weapons on armor and the sounds when weapons hit someone when they hit flesh, they're kind of cartoony, but they sound good. I like them. The effects are kind of, the sound effects are kind of exaggerated, but they still sound good. As for the story was interesting too, but really this whole game should have just been way longer because you spend quite a bit of the game unraveling this mystery, and then it just, you solve the problem almost immediately after you learn what it is. It's as though the second act was cut out. It's as though you're in a 3-act play and you've just got Act 1 and Act 3. That's how this game is, really. And it's a very short Act 3. They needed more stuff after you solve what's behind what's going on in the game. There needed to be more things between Act 1 and Act 3. I mean, there really was no Act 2 in this game at all in terms of the story. But that'll happen when you have like 8 people working on your game. It is what it is. Yeah, I think the main problem of this game, really all of the big problems that this game has, stem from its brevity. If the game, like I said, were twice as long, practically all the problems would be solved, and it would be an amazing game. Well, other than the technical problems, the stability. If they fix the stability, and the game were twice as long, they could pad out the story and make it flow better. The character builds would be more relevant, and they could add in, more choice and consequence. They could have made a less linear story. But as the game stands, it's very good. The combat's very good. The story is intriguing. I like the look and the sound of the game. But most people probably can't tolerate this game crashing every 15 minutes, and like I said, the brevity will just turn most people off. They'll play through it once and they'll think it's terrible and they'll never pick it up again. It is what it is. Watch footage of the game and come to your own conclusions. Yeah, I think the main draw of this game to people who appreciate role-playing games will be the fact that the vast majority of quests in this game have 3+ solutions. And there's like 20-something quests in this game and they've all got 3+ solutions. I think there's only like a handful of side quests that only have like 1 or 2 solutions. Almost every single one has 3 or 4 solutions. And some of them have even more than 4 or 5 solutions. So it's great in that respect. It's just, as I said, unfortunate that the game is so short. If the game had, let's say, 50 side quests and it were another 15 hours, this would be my absolute favorite role-playing game of all time, hands down. Even with, the constant crashes, because I can overlook that. What I can't overlook is the neglected opportunity with the story. It being totally linear, and I can't overlook the opportunity to have more side quests and more factions when they've already got such a complex skill system in place. There are all kinds of skills in this game that don't appear in other games, like literacy and lore, music, there's a repair skill, and there are all kinds of quests in this game that use these skills, but as I said, it just doesn't really matter because the game is so short, and most of these quests have other solutions anyway. So you just don't have enough time in the game to feel as though your character build makes a great deal of difference. And that's the main problem with really any role-playing game is, your character build not feeling important, or the decisions you make during character creation not feeling as important as they should be. And that could have easily been solved by the game being just another 15 or so hours longer. But as I said, the development team for this game was like 5 or 6 people, maybe 7, 8 people, I don't recall. So I assume they just did not have the time to make the game as large as they wanted it to be. Or perhaps this is the way they wanted it to be and they just weren't aware of this problem. Maybe they didn't feel the way that I do, but I think the game is just too short to really appreciate the mechanical depth that was put into it. The game isn't long enough to take full advantage of, how well crafted the underlying systems are. And that's the real tragedy of this game, the missed opportunity. Because as I said, if I only had 5 or so hours to play, any game, this game would be at the top of my list for role-playing games. I would absolutely rather play through the first town in Pyrrhic Tales, Prelude to Darkness, over any other role-playing game, very easily. And the game has that level of quality throughout, which is crazy. You'd think, oh, well, the first town is good, but I'm sure the late game is terrible. No, this game is high quality throughout. Almost all the side quests in the game have 3 or 4+ solutions. So this is an incredibly high quality game. It's just not very long. And it's really unfortunate because, as I said, there's such great underlying mechanics that aren't taken advantage of. But anyway, I'm just rambling in circles now. Like I said, watch footage of the game, come to your own conclusions. I think it's an amazing game that's just unfortunately too short.